Hi. So today I am finally getting up the courage to talk about the sixth experience. What I saw in my ketamine experience. So this experience, last time I told you I was upping the dosage from 300 to 500 because I wasn't feeling anything. And the first time I did the 500, I threw up shortly after, so I don't feel like I didn't feel like the full force of the ketamine. But this time, oh boy, I did. And it was intense. It was so intense. It was like one of those times. It's like, oh, what is that? The intro, it was just like the first experience where the intro movie Limitless, if y'all ever saw that, it was like a visual kaleidoscope effect is what was happening. But you're so calm when it's happening, and it almost feels like your body is, you're having like an out-of-body experience. Like your mind and your body are one, but like within itself. So you open your mind and you're like in reality. But I truly felt like I was tapped out of reality. And I'm talking about this a month later because I was originally going to post the following day like I did with the other ones. But the trip turned real dark. It was like I peaked, and then all of a sudden, you know what it felt like? It felt like all the other times it was like, oh, love and compassion and blah, blah, blah. And this time felt like we're going to get really into the shadows of your mind, the corners of your mind that you don't want to face or look at or scared to think about. Areas in your life you don't necessarily want to improve, but in order to be a better person, you kind of have to deal. So in the beginning, it was really intense. I said and I did all the normal things that I did before the ketamine. Like I gave myself permission to like go with the flow. Was I feeling like I needed to spoil myself a whole lot? Did I need to make it a big thing? Could I make it a small thing? You know, just like feel it out. And then of course, never do it when you're in a funk mood. So I planned the day, and that day was a really good day. So I was able to move about accordingly, I guess. And I didn't throw up. When the trip originally started, Frank was with me, and I had, this time I was prepared. I actually had a vomit bucket nearby. Sorry. It got like real emotional, and so it might not make sense what I'm about to say during the trip, but there is like clips and pieces, so I'm going to describe it to you as best I can. It took me about a month to talk about the experience though, because the experience went so much deeper into like things that I personally feel very vulnerable about, and really what it really enlightened on was areas of my life I haven't forgiven myself for. When the character of me as a person wasn't this badass that most people know today, where I was a coward. I was very much a coward. And it's like I haven't forgiven myself, getting emotional, for being a coward, for dating cowards. And there should be more character development in the world. But it is a hard path to do because you have to look at areas and parts of yourself that you don't like a lot, and you have to be real honest with yourself. And for a coward to be honest with themselves is terrifying because they're scared all the time. I also learned that there is nothing wrong with being scared, and being scared isn't the same as as having cowardly actions. So I hope that makes sense. I really wanted to just share with y'all the trip and how it went, and so the kaleidoscope effect happened. It's so hard because when I start thinking about it, it's like my brain gets scrambled because it's almost like a visual. So I'm gonna like close my eyes and put my jute down real fast so I can like try to do this. Okay, so when I first stayed down, there's this 5 to 10 minutes. I don't really know the time, right? But it felt like 5 to 10 minutes. You're laying on the bed, and all of a sudden, your mind just starts peeling away from your body. And what I mean by that is, my hand is right here, right? I feel my hand. In my mind, my hand knows my hand's here. right here. I open my eyes, I can see how close my hand is. I know my hand can't reach the other side of the room. Look at that, that's illogical. It doesn't make any sense. But when it starts kicking in and you close your eyes, your body starts separating. It almost felt like the wall that's so far away is right here. And if you don't open your eyes, if you keep your eyes closed, it becomes your actual reality. The world shifting and moving, you no longer a part of your body, and it's just constantly changing. And sometimes it becomes so surreal. And at one point, I felt so completely disconnected from my outer body that Howard. And the fact that like I had gone against myself, like the realization that knowing that core belief and not realizing that it was a boundary almost. And then I married Koi really, really young. We were both 20, and we had like a long distance relationship, and it was military. Fear dying. I thought my life wasn't really worth living. I've attempted 3 times in my 30 years. And each time, miraculously, including my car rolling twice and flipping over, I survived. In fact, the car flipping over made me so fucking mad because I couldn't lift myself up. And you can hear all about that journey in another video called My Fitness Journey, where I talk about that last attempt and how it kind of just, like, I was like, all right, fine, I'm defeated. I guess I'm alive. So I never really feared death because I thought this was as good as it's gonna get. I keep playing the hand I'm dealt to the best of my ability, and I'm not fucking getting anywhere. And but when I was on that trip, it didn't matter, you know. It was like wow. I didn't look at death as like a scary thing. What I fear is pain. I fear pain, not necessarily the end of my life. I fear the pain that usually comes with the ending of a life. And so to be able to be in tune with my body and my mind and know that like if my life ended, or if this reality that I'm living in with, you know, being here in Cali and finally having a lot of my dreams come true, having a space that's safe enough to like undo all of the things and that made me like the way I am, that make me not feel safe, that make me not feel good, ended, I would be happy. I've lived a very good and beautiful life. And that was a really trippy experience. So the trip was very, very intense, and it was a really good trip. I felt I wouldn't say I felt like super like duper pleased or happy or whatever, but I wouldn't say I was in a euphoric state, but I definitely would say that I was just content with whatever would happen, or with whatever life would bring me. And feeling that was very strange, because similar to feeling what safe nostalgia felt like the first time I revisited Hawaii, this was my first time feeling comforted in the fact that, you know, my life is gonna end, and I'm really proud of all that I've accomplished, all that I have gone through. I wouldn't be able to give myself these compliments without the help of like being able to step back and see how much you've done for your life. So some of the things that popped up were like flash images of things, like one of the first ones that popped up was, sorry, this gets really personal, which is why I get kind of quiet. The first time I saved somebody's life, for me that was very life-changing. The first time I was ever face to face with suicide. The first time I was ever faced with, and I'm not going into detail about these stories, by the way. They're personal, and I think some things should just stay personal. The first time I tasted freedom, when I truly had a vehicle and money to put gas in said vehicle, and I wasn't expected or wanted anywhere. And there was a deep sense of loneliness that came with that, but there was also a wonderful sigh of freedom that came with that. And I was reminded of that because so long I had never been given privacy. I always felt like someone was consistently watching me all the time. And that comes just from childhood abuse. And I know that like, and for me, it was to the point where like, I always felt like I was being watched, that even when I'm alone, I have to make sure that I'm acting appropriately, I say the right things, or I do the right things, or I'm working hard, or whatever I'm doing is going to be a benefit to those around me. And I don't really ever like make time to do stuff I love or enjoy. And I will say that through the ketamine experience, it has been a lot easier to like, I don't know, do things. Like all January, I've built a table, I built the shelves, I spent money to do those things, you know? And none of that was towards my business. It was just towards my home, my livelihood, where I live. And that was really hard for me. Also, planning days off was really hard for me. And over the time of taking the ketamine, it's become a lot easier. It's easier to be a little bit more compassionate. One of the things I wanted was to have more capacity, but I feel like that just comes over longer periods of time. So make sure that y'all know I'm talking about the bad side of the trip, because that's the good side of the trip. I'm going to turn this, use my LED lights red. Okay, so there we go. Now I know what topic I'm on. Yeah, so the trip started getting super dark. And right before it took an ugly twist to where it was like I was just experiencing an experience, the thoughts went from like being okay that I was going to be like non-existent at some point. And then flashes of my ex-husband came to mind. And where the trip started getting like, was the more that because I saw his face, and it's been a long time since I've seen his face. Yeah, so it started taking a turn because flashes of my ex-husband kept popping up in my mind, and flashes of me at that time popped up. And that's whenever it turned dark. And not dark in the fact that like I was being mean or hateful to myself, but I was overwhelmed with all these emotions that were like locked in these images that were flashing across my mind from that period of my life where, oh God, I'm getting emotional. I have not forgiven myself for. I still find myself, when I really want to beat myself up, taking myself back to that era. And we all have that era where we were like the shittiest, horriblest versions of ourselves, where we were hurting the people we loved, hurting ourselves. We were hurt, so we were hurt. And you're not even focusing on what you're doing. You're not thinking straight. You're just going about everything. And then when you look back, you're like, what the fuck? Like, that's not something I would ever do now. I would never do that. I would never make those choices. I would never say those words. I would never have acted that way. I would have. And then you have to like, now, hold on, give me 5 seconds. Now, I'm at a place where like I can, oh God, whenever I feel massive emotion, my brain short circuits and I can't think straight. All these feelings came up. I started to feel like a coward. For me, I felt so much guilt and so much shame because I was the monster in the marriage. I was the one that did dirty. I was the worst me at that time. From like 19 to 22, I was the shittiest, crappiest, bitchiest, and not like intentionally. Let me make a clearer picture for you. I was a naive girl who had no boundaries, no self-value, no self-respect, was raised in a family who made me believe my only worth was what I could provide, and if I could do the duties that were pressed on me because of my religion, my family, or my responsibilities. So as long as I was useful, as long as I was a tool that they could use or control or be of some sort of service to them, I was deserving of love. When you raise a child like that, things are going to go wrong. And it all showed up, of course, as science and as psychology has dictated, in your relationships. And they did. I became the ugliest, worst version of myself, and it slapped me awake. And I was young, but I was ignorant. I was hurt, so I hurt other people. I was scared to live in my truth or to confront what I truly wanted or to even speak up about my feelings because I didn't think they truly mattered. So I never spoke up. I never communicated what I felt. Or I did the opposite, where I would communicate so much, so intensely, because I desperately needed to be solved, that the other person feels so attacked, so confronted, that they do what most men do best, stonewall, and just throw up this wall and completely shut me out. And what did that do to somebody like me that has the symptoms I have? Oh, it turns me into a panic. It turns me manic. It makes me snap. Stonewalling is the worst thing you could do to me as a person. And realizing that trigger, I didn't realize until years later when I actually decided to open myself up in another relationship with RV. And so to go from like, and then again, being with RV opened up a whole slew of shit I had not recovered from. Think like where my trust was with people I even dated was like so small. I had so little faith, so little trust. And so like learning that and learning how closed off I truly am and how jaded I had truly been. But it was being confronted with all of that and like having a clear view, because if I had told you this, I don't know, maybe like 3 weeks ago, it would have been like, or not 3 weeks ago, sorry, 3 years ago, it would have been like, and I was just a shitty person, I was a bitch and blah blah, and there would have been no positive at that at all. But because of that shitty experience, and by the way, when the trip as it's happening, when it started building up and I started seeing these flash images and I started having that intense nausea, that intense like feeling of unrest, unease, that's when it started slipping, because it was almost like I was fighting not to see what it was trying to show me. So when they say don't fight the trip, go with it, I truly mean that. Like, if you feel like, just roll with it, take a couple of deep breaths, be like, this isn't gonna last forever, it's gonna be okay. But I was really fighting myself. I didn't want to see that side of myself. I didn't want to be reminded at that depth that it wanted to show me. And that's why it's taken me a month to like process through that trip. As the intensity started rising, right before it reached a point where I could no longer think straight, it was just physically feeling the trip and the pain, and then having my roommate have to like calm me down and rest, and and right before it started taking that deep twist. But what I'm trying to say is that I was able to see all of it. Like, yes, I was the shittiest bitch I had ever been. I was not shitty on purpose though. I was naive, I was scared, uninformed, and I was working with what I knew, which were almost good ideas, almost good principles, almost great things put into practice. But at that time in my life, I didn't have examples of what good character was, of what good honesty was, of how to properly communicate. I didn't know any of those things. All I knew was, because I didn't do XYZ at XYZ, I was not a good person. And I lived with that for a long time, that I'm just not a good person. And so I have to do all these good things so that people see my value, so that people give a fuck about me, so that I could make relationships, because I know they're out there. I know healthy communication is out there. And I searched, hungry, feverish for a community, for friends, for family, for people I could cling and call my own. And I mean, that's the 4 years of Hawaii. It's that journey right there. So coming back here and going back to those feelings where I was like, oh, I'm totally over it, I'm not going to think about it anymore. And the ketamine really making me put an eye on that. And being like, hey, you still have a lot of undealt with feelings, and you still haven't faced yourself, and you're still judging yourself extremely harsh. And so it took a long time to realize that the ketamine wasn't trying to be mean, I was fighting it. But it was really showing me like the whole picture. Like, yes, that one small tiny piece of you made a mistake. It made a mistake. Did you do that mistake again? No, never again. Did you? So then you're not a bad person, right? And sometimes it takes extreme things to like make you see that. And I guess this was my extreme thing that made me see that. I'm not a bad person. I made a mistake in the past. I've made a lot of mistakes in my past. And I can't just say one, you know, I'm human, let's be real. We've all made multiple. And I've made mistakes that hurt people. I've made mistakes that fucked people over. I've made mistakes that fucked me over. I've made mistakes that like are baffling, you know? And then you go back and you're like, why would I even do that? And so I can't say that through this experience I've forgiven myself, but I definitely can say I can see the whole picture now. Without that shitty 3-year Jade, that cowardly Jade, that didn't know nothing and was just doing the best that she could with what she had, Jade, let's do that. Let's say I was scared, not a coward, and I was doing the best I could with the information and knowledge that I had. Why does it take me so long to say really awesome things? Why do I have to go blah, 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 and then after, 32 minutes of talking, boop, there it is, the little golden piece. But whatever, I said I would give it to y'all raw. This is me raw, not edited. So the ketamine got worse and worse, and then the experience just became that of sensation, where I was just feeling things. The next day I felt like total shit. I did not feel good at all. The following day I was really emotional. In fact, the following week, I was just disconnected. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't really I couldn't journal. My planner kind of died out for a little bit. And then after about a week of that, I woke up one morning and I was like, I just started doing the things I said I would do. And it was almost like a little switch in my brain was like, you know what? We have enough strength to trust ourselves. We have enough strength to do the things that we say we're gonna do. And it's been a year now, and I can actually look back at the year and say I have been doing the things I have said I was going to do for myself this entire past year. I have been working on myself this entire past year. I have been challenging myself and pushing myself outside of my boundaries this entire past year. And even the year before that. And so now it's like becoming a reality that, like, yeah, you are that person that does that. You do that. You do have the capacity for that. Do I think I'm like miraculously healed from the ketamine treatment? No. Do I think that the ketamine treatment seriously helped speed up a lot of the processing which I couldn't come to terms with? Yes. I also feel like subconsciously so much more stuff became easier over the period of time that I was doing the ketamine. As in, like, that short switch between when you're aggravated and angry, right? There's like, sometimes there's no buffer time. And now I feel like there's like a second where I'm like, okay, this is pissing me off, like seriously about to get mad, uncontrollably mad. I need to step away. Before I didn't have that. I literally would just like endure. And most people are like, oh wow, she never gets mad, she's so cool. No, my endurance is just really fucking long from my very abusive family. So endure, snap. And now it's like, oh fuck, I'm enduring. I don't want to endure. Let me step away. Ugh, I'm enduring. Let me tell this person my boundaries. And it may take me some time, and I may be scared, and I may not get it right because I'm still not perfect at communicating. Nobody is, because all of us are different. It's literally a chemical reaction every time you communicate with somebody, right? You never know what's going to happen or where it will lead. So, yeah. I definitely would recommend the ketamine series to people who want to try it. It is definitely something that had a huge impact on me and in a positive way. I did have to stop seeing my therapist about halfway through the ketamine series, and they actually recommended this book, which I know I mentioned last time, and I've been doing it as well. I'm almost done with this like 10-week little module thing here, but I'm not actually done with the book. It's supposed to be 8 weeks, but the actual book, like if you decide to do the ketamine series and you're like, but I want to do the ketamine and I can't afford, I definitely recommend doing the integration workbook along with your series. I wish I had gotten it at the beginning of my series, so I could have done this with the thing all the way through. But I'm happy that I have this rolling out, and I'm going to do a separate video covering what's inside of this, and maybe you could just use those tools to do with what you need, because a lot of it is just mindset and setting intention and just taking the few minutes or seconds it takes to think on something, to think on it. Our brains were built to think. Why would you not think? So that's my ketamine experience. Overall, I'm happy with the results. Would I like to feel like I have more capacity to have relationships? Yes. But I understand that right now I'm not quite there yet, and I still feel just like this basket. Like I still feel like there's so many holes, and I've patched up kind of a few, so I've got a little bit more capacity, but I still got holes that whenever I feel overwhelmed, the relationships or the drive to keep up with relationships instantly goes out the window. And I realize that's because how we have relationships with ourselves is shown in how we conduct relationships with others. So as I learn how to build a better relationship with myself, I know that my connections will become more beautiful because I'll be building relationships with other people, because I'll have the actual capacity to. I won't be pouring from an empty cup as I've been doing all these years. And I've never had my cup full. So I don't even know where my potential lies. And that's the beautiful thing about healing. That's like one of the best things I can possibly think of. It's like I have an idea of where I want to go, right? But when you heal, it always takes you so much further. It always takes you on crazy journeys you never thought you'd go on, meeting people you never thought you'd talk to, hearing stories and experiences from people you never thought you would hear. And they teach you so much. That's why storytelling is so important, and why I love storytelling, because you can go back, listen to somebody's story and be like, wow, I learned something from that. If that situation ever had me in that, I would not make those decisions. And you have time to think about the decisions you would make, or whatever, or just, I don't know, think for yourself or something. So I'm pretty happy. I feel a little nervous. I do know that the last ketamine did open up a tear of a bunch of unresolved feelings that I'm not at a space where I feel comfortable dealing with on my own. So right now I'm focusing more on positive habits, mental mind work, thought process, just being more transparent in areas that I can and expanding in other areas. And if that gash ends up like reopening, and I know that some of the feelings are going to slowly ooze out over time. Because healing is not linear. It's like this, or this, or this. It's crazy. This is my point. And so, yeah, we definitely recommend it. I definitely think I'm going to, with the healing, it might come out, but I want to go back to actually seeing a somatic therapist. And somatic therapy is what led me to this, is what led me to the ketamine. My own psychotherapist, Leah Benson, who does video, and I always recommend her. She was amazing. Helped me process, because our bodies, as a massage therapist, I've always known this. We're taught this in school. When somebody cries on your table, you have to give them the space to let the emotional release, because our body holds motion within ourselves. Body and mind are connection. If you've worked out, body-mind connection. If you're in psychology, body-mind connection. If you're in massage therapy, body-mind connection. Everyone knows in all these areas of life, body-mind connection. So our muscles, our body holds memories, it holds emotion. So when you're massaging, sometimes you'll have an emotional release, not always, but sometimes some people do have emotional releases. And so I know that I may be having occasional emotional release, but I would prefer to tackle that area that I still get obviously choked up on every time I even bring it up, with a professional. But there are other areas that scare me that I feel like I could really tackle on my own. And so the ketamine has given me more confidence. I shouldn't say the ketamine has given me, technically the ketamine has helped me create new neural pathways. I'm getting sciencey, y'all. Ooh, science. Hold on. I got this. Wait, I got this. So the science of it, the ketamine actually got me new neural pathways being developed in my brain. Your brain can be changed. Neuroscience is fascinating. In fact, I've always been in love with the brain. I was super upset when my stepdad told me that I couldn't have a science fair project on the brain. I had to do it on condensation. I still made it to state, but I would have made it all the way if I had done the brain. Anyways, new neural pathways. And what those new neural pathways did for me was allow me to be gentler with myself without having a 2 to 3 day recoil of I have to punish myself every time I do something pleasurable. And so being able to break that habit, not even realizing that was a chain habit I was doing, and then realizing it, and then being able to slowly start taking the steps to break it, realizing how much my body reacts to things, becoming more self-aware. By creating these new neural pathways, I've been able to have more awareness with self. And by having more awareness with self, by having all of these new things, the thing that makes me the most excited, the thing that kicked off the healing altogether all those years ago when I started that fitness journey was, of course, through my career. I wanted to be an empowered body worker. I want to be an empowered body worker. I want to be a person who practices what she preaches. When you come to me and you lay on my table, I want you to be able to feel the energy and feel that you can be and relax and do, and you're safe, and I can create these safe spaces for people and be there for people and be there for myself, and not only for myself, but just be able to show up authentically in this way. Like if I say I'm an empowered body worker, I don't want to be like these massage therapists to say stretch, do this, do that, but never do any of those things. No, I want it to be a bitch that's I do what I'm about. I am what I'm about. And I thought I was always like that, but when you take a mirror to yourself, you really have to ask yourself, are your habits, is your daily life really leading you up to that? It has really opened my mind to the importance of mindset. It's really opened up my mind to the areas where I have very little self-control. It's just, like I said, it's just made me very, very self-aware. And I definitely say that I don't like to say I recommend everybody going on an interpersonal journey to be better. I definitely recommend it, but it is not for the faint of heart when you start this healing journey. And because I am a massage therapist, very proud of that. And very proud of the fact that my hands can bring healing to people. And that also comes with energy, and being a Reiki practitioner and believing in energy, and the fact that now I have science-based information and references and stuff and tools that I can use so that I can better myself. I can truly be the embodied, the empowered body worker I want to be, and I can be fit, I can be helpful, I can be old and still be giving and doing and curating and all this stuff, and I can just, anyways, I'm rambling on, but new neural pathways means new ways of looking at things. It means less time making decisions. And as for the bipolar, it makes it so that the swing, for me personally, this can't be for everybody, but for the swing of going from intense one feeling to intense other. And by the way, a reminder, there's 2 types of bipolar, type 1 and type 2. Mine leans more towards mania. The other version leans more towards depression, but both of them have intense swinging. It's not like bipolar personality where you instantly snap.
Bipolar disorder is just a fluctuation of extreme intense feelings. So I feel things very deeply. I feel things very intensely, and it doesn't take drugs really to have me be completely immersed in the doing of things, because I'm extremely self-aware. And this has only made me more self-aware in better ways, better ways of self-awareness. But I'm gonna end it here. I said what I need to say. I've officially done my ketamine experience. I think in a couple years I might try to do it again. Or I know that towards the end of this year I'm definitely going to be seeking an actual therapist. My therapist has another therapist that's in LA that she recommended to me that does the same type of like somatic work she does. So this 2022 I'm going to try to see her towards the end of the year, and hopefully you can develop a good relationship with this thing. This wasn't just me going like, yeah, I'm going to do psychedelics. This was me going, I want to create new neural pathways in my brain. I want a doctor around me. I want help because I want to get better so I can be better, do better, be better. And I'm ending on that note. Have a groovy day, everyone.